Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Ascension Playground. And also, welcome, Sibyl Star and her beautiful family from the YouTube channel, Sibyl Star. Sibyl is an incredible astrologer, and we are both quantum soul guidance practitioners working with Julia Balaz and our soul family from around the world. Hey, Sibyl.
Hey, Ursula. Hey, Ursula, I'd also like to record. I think you need to click something.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. There we go. I think you have permission now.
Oh, great. Thank you. No, I don't.
Huh. All
Hmm,
right, so we can start over. Let's see, because I will edit that part out.
okay.
It should have been able to let you. Are you hitting the record button?
I'm hitting, yeah, the more button is usually where it shows up for me. Let's see here. There's no.
Next to the share screen, there's a thing called pause, stop recording.
Mine looks a little bit different than yours.
Okay.
Normally I record where in the under the three dots.
Okay, so you have permission.
I do. Darn it. Let me see here.
It's all right. We're learning how to.
Let me
You
see.
and I can fix all the bumps and the wiggles.
Let me look here and see if maybe wonder if my recording thing is impacted because of that new
No.
app.
Oh,
Well, it doesn't.
when you go into it should be down at the bottom to be able to hit the
There
recording.
we go. There we go. I found it.
Okay, so we're
Okay.
both recording. Okay, so I just want to say welcome. My name is Ursula with the Ascension Playground, and I'm so happy to be co-hosting today with Sibyl Star and her YouTube family. Hi, Sibyl.
Hi, Ursula.
Oh my gosh, we're like soul family co-creating in a very Aquarian way because both of us met through Julia Balaz and her Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioners course. So yay, here we are trying to read the tea leaves of this incredible energy.
Yes.
How are the stars feeling to you on your end on Earth?
Oh my gosh. I mean, things are hopping. I really feel the Pluto shift into Aquarius. um you know and this is why I felt like this was really important now to understand the chart of the United States, because the United States is going through its Pluto return, which we have never gone through before, and everything is changing. And the Pluto of the United States is very close to, it's in degrees of Capricorn, very close to Aquarius. And Pluto has just moved into Aquarius. And it's massive change and transformation. I feel, of who we are, what we value. But I can just feel the energy. And as we get into what we're going to talk about today, it's really important to know that, the history, to know kind of where we are now.
Yes, we're having an identity crisis here in the United States. We have to sort out what is it that we want to be? Who are we? And first of all, where do we come from? It's like a re-examination of our origin story to find out where we are and where we want to go. And so your invitation to me to like, hey, let's just get together and see if we can sort things out. But this is coming in a rippling of a wave because another one of our classmates, Patrizia Trotta in Italy, she and I were talking about the draconic chart for the United States as well. So I love how we can engage in a network to find out, hey, what are you picking up on? But for me personally, since this new Aries moon, the new moon in Aries, for me, I took that challenge to really connect with the divine star in Pegasus. That's holding the closest to the 0 degrees Aries point as we began this new spring equinox, the beautiful star Al Shiat. And I felt encouraged to just go and create a treasure map and begin to dream again because the star Shiat is asking us all we could wish for. So I'm going to bring in Al Shiat's energy as we're looking at the United States chart because, you have to almost have a dream and to know like a visualization, like what's your vision because otherwise you're just kind of reacting and flopping around. But it was the vision of the early Americans to leave, the autocracy, the king and queen of England, and to, hey, we're not paying those taxes and coming over here to pioneer and recreate a new world. So I feel that with you, with Pluto and the Aries in the beginning. It's almost like a new time is beginning. It's like the structure of time is even shifting.
Everything is shifting. And so, kind of talking about that, Ursula, is the magical forces behind the creation of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Really powerful stuff going on. Our founding fathers were Freemasons. They were deeply involved with Greco-Egyptian mythology and philosophy and spiritual thought. And the day that the Declaration of Independence was signed, which was July 4th, 1776, our sun was in a direct alignment with the star Sirius. And that day was chosen for several reasons. Okay. And because, some believe that we are actually in a binary star system with the star Sirius, that because to the Egyptians, Sirius was the celestial form of Isis. She is the great mother. And this date was chosen for that reason, because of their because of who Isis was in Greco-Egyptian mythology.
Well, here, let me call up some pictures. I love what you're saying, and I bet a lot of people listening may not know. So here's our introductory chart, everybody, just to keep it really simple. We've got an astro chat with Sibyl Star. And I was teasing Sibyl earlier that if you move her words around or the letters around in her name, it spells Sibley. So the Sibyl Star and Ursula looking at the United States, and that funny looking being over there is an artist's version of a Syrian star being. But let's see if I can move to the next slide. Here we go. So here, hopefully this helps you give us this connection to Isis. Go ahead.
Yes, there she is. The great mother goddess of Egypt. And so I feel like, with that decision, they knew they were putting us kind of in the care of the great mother, and who Isis was, And of course, it also says to me that, well, first I want to finish up here because if you've ever been to Washington, D.C., you can see all of the Greco-Egyptian iconography from the Washington Monument, which is an obelisk that came directly out of Egypt, to all of the different paintings that are, the goddess Athena sits atop our Capitol building. They call her the goddess of democracy. But, if you have any awareness whatsoever, that is the goddess Athena. So the whole, is full of Egyptian iconography. And this is something I just found out that is so interesting. Because they also, the founding fathers actually created the blueprint for Washington, D.C. They were created in the like 1790 or something. It didn't come into fruition until a little later, but they were all involved in it, the Freemasons. And so this is what I read. Washington, D.C. is a city that, it says, as above, so below. Washington, D.C. has been mapped as an earthly reflection of the celestial canopy above, designed with over 30 different zodiacs matching the constellations in the sky. In the National Academy of Sciences, 12 of the zodiacs are displayed in relief on the metal doors of the building. The Federal Reserve Board building adds an additional 2 zodiacs designed in glass which glow with light. The Library of Congress building displays 5 zodiacs, as do many other important buildings in Washington, D.C. The man who designed it was a Frenchman, and his name, or the man who did the actual design based upon what the founders wanted, was a man named L'Enfant. And his design was that Pennsylvania Avenue, which stretched a mile from the Capitol to the White House, which coincidentally is oriented to the rising and movement across the sky of the star Sirius.
Yeah.
It's actually aligned to Sirius. And using the DuPont and Logan circles at northern points, one can trace various interlocking streets to form a star, including the White House.
Wow. Well, you know, I traveled with William Henry and his beautiful wife, Claire Henry. And William has been tracking this way before that guy Dan Brown did the Da Vinci Code and then the second book on the Capitol. So yeah, it's so I think anyone listening, if this is your first time hearing this, when you start talking about extraterrestrial or aliens, you have to see that there's a possibility to hold this and frame it as these are our star families that have helped us from our origins and beginnings, including the United States. So when sometimes we get these ideas about, oh, a Bill of Rights or a Constitution, this idea of inspired writing, inspired creation or co creation with our star family, such as what you're saying, Sibyl, from Sirius. Now, the Syrians were also known as master geneticists. So it's not just the laying out of archaeoastronomy to connect Earth with the heavens in these perfect alignments, but also within our bodies, which are also another matrix of a divine blueprint. So, a blueprint being in the exterior world and creation of cities, and also the blueprint within us in our living body. Have you read the works of William Henry, though, Sybil? Has that crossed your radar yet?
Is does he have programs on Gaia
He
TV?
sure does.
Yes, and I've watched his programming then.
Yeah, he does some great traveling
Yeah.
trips around the world. So I
Does
love
he?
this
Yeah.
that you're calling this in Isis, this mother, and then Osiris, who is also connected to Pluto and the fixed star Sirius. But the
Mhm.
ancients also connect Osiris, the god of the underworld, to also the Orion star system and then the three
Mhm.
belts of Orion, belt stars of Orion, which you're seeing in this graphic that you created and gave us of the pyramid. So this is archaeoastronomy, where archaeology, like where the temple doors open, who they greet with these beautiful fixed stars rising and setting at pivotal points of the calendar.
Right.
Wow, I love
So there's more magic.
there is more magic. Oh my
There's
gosh.
more magic coming. So yeah, so we're gonna next talk about Saint Germain.
Okay.
We have a
Well,
photo of him, don't we? Oh,
oh, we
there's our
sure
star
do.
beings. Oh, there's our Syrian star beings, our star family. So to know that the United States has a particular connection to the star Sirius and her beings.
Now, if you think that you might be a Syrian star seed or have an inclination for that heritage, you can Google star seed Sirius or Syrian star seed. But what you're seeing in this graphic that I put in is this idea of the geometry around the third eye. So, geometry, music of the spheres, working with energy, genetics. If you have a predisposition for healing and sound, vibrational healing, this is the work of an artist named Vashta. So it's just more of a visual description of energy. All right, so here we are. I wanted to show in this graphic working with Sibyl, when you go on astro.com, you can add in and see on the USA Sibley chart, 4th of July, 1776, like Sibyl said, 5:10 p.m. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and you add in Sirius. So I put a little circle, which you can see. Here's my little pointer. Sirius is, here's our beautiful sun in Cancer. And here, this line here, Sirius is sitting between Jupiter and the sun. But when I did the transit for where is Sirius today, you know, Sirius is sitting at 14 degrees of Cancer, and our natal sun in America is sitting at 13 degrees Cancer. So the conjunction is even stronger in this now moment. So I just wanted to share that's how you can find where the planet or this beautiful star Sirius is in the natal chart for America. But
Okay.
here's your beautiful picture, Sibyl. This is Saint Germain. Tell us a little bit
This
more.
is Saint Germain. All right. So, for those of you who don't know who Saint Germain is, Saint Germain is an ascended master. He's a being that, had really, did the ascension process. We'll just put it that way. But anyway, he has had many incarnations on Earth. And his last one is called the Comte de Saint Germain. I can't remember some of his other famous lifetimes, but he has had some. Anyway, but he is known as the violet flame because his frequency is so high. Now he was the thing is, he was known he lived in the 1700s in France, and he was known as a wizard, a magician, an alchemist, and he was just a brilliant person. And he actually lived at the court in France. And he was very, very involved with our American founders. The French helped us through. They helped us revolt, basically. They sent soldiers, and a lot of our diplomats, like Benjamin Franklin, and I can't remember who all the others were, spent a lot of time with him, and he was very involved in writing our Declaration of Independence and in our Constitution. And he said that the next enlightened civilization would be in North America. He says he compared it to Atlantis. And this is why he said one of the reasons he came at that time that he did was to help this about. And just so you know, he is known as the avatar of the Aquarian age, just like Jesus was the avatar for the age of Pisces. And so Saint Germain is very involved with what is happening right now in the world. And many people are seeing him at places like Mount Shasta. The Tetons and Yellowstone are the most recent ones that I've heard of, but a lot of people see him at Mount Shasta. So I thought this was another really super interesting piece of the vision, because he's part of the vision of the United States coming into being.
Oh, beautiful. I'm so glad you called his energy forward. So we looked at, Sirius as a star system or a star, and then this beautiful entity named Saint Germain, and that violet color, that beautiful color. There's no accident. It's a very high frequency. It's like the highest level of frequency, right? So it's no accident that it's this color. And I love that you called him the avatar of the Aquarian age. So let's see, what do we have next here? We have
Next we're going into the chart itself. No, first I'm gonna talk about Pluto in Aquarius. Okay. Yeah, so we can look at the chart or not, but anyway, it's
oh, do you want me to go to the chart that shows Pluto
you
conjunct?
know, it doesn't, yeah, I'll just we'll just leave the chart up, and then we'll
Okay.
talk about the chart. Okay. Because it's really important to know, Pluto is moving into Aquarius, or has moved in there yesterday. And I just want to give you a little history. It's just important to know our history to kind of understand what is happening now. Okay. We always look at the history of what happened the time before when this happened, or when this event occurred. So in astrology, I mean. So the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was from 1777 to 1798. This was the year after the Declaration of Independence was written. But it was moving over the final degrees of Capricorn, just like it has been the last, several years. And paradigms were beginning to crumble, and two major revolutions were either happening or brewing. By the time Pluto moved into Aquarius in 1777, the American Revolution was already in full swing. But then in 1789, we had the French Revolution. And so, and Aquarius is a sign of revolution, is what I would say. Pluto is kind of like a volcanic eruption of what's been lying below the surface. And it's about evolve. Pluto says evolve or die, basically. And anyway, so during the time Pluto was in Aquarius, We had the French Revolution. And also, I do want to say this, Aquarius is the sign of the people. It's about people power, Pluto in Aquarius. And so in the French Revolution, we had, the phrase liberté, égalité, fraternité, liberty, equality, and brotherhood, which are all very Aquarian principles. And the planet Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius, had just been discovered. The French Revolution became very bloody and actually turned into anarchy and chaos. But what it did do is it broke down that system. Is what it came in. It was a systems buster. It came down, and the monarchy has never been the same. The monarchy had developed, become very well, always had been, as far as I know, maybe in some enlightened civilizations, but very authoritarian. And Aquarius is just the opposite of that. Those rulers that are ruling by divine right, which is ruled by the opposite sign, which is Leo. And so, for the first time in many thousands of years, it was the people had rights, not just the aristocracy. And I do want to bring this in because of our close relationship with France during the time of our creation. France, Paris is burning right now. Yesterday, Pluto moved into Aquarius, and the people are rioting. They want their leader, Macron. They want him to come down. I mean, there's lots of reasons, and I don't want to go into all of that. But to just know the revolution has started. And then the second really significant thing that happened was the writing and the ratification of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights here in the United States. It was the first time in history that the rights of that known history, we want to say that known history, that the rights of the individual was codified. That not every country has a Bill of Rights like we have, and it was a brilliant, and it is held up through a lot of aggressive attacks against it. And I really do feel like, with Pluto moving into Aquarius again, there will be another revolution. And I think it will be a revolution in consciousness. I think we're at a different place in time and history, and we have the potential to have a much different, there will be systems breakdown. But I also feel like we have the potential to take it to another level, and that's in consciousness.
So the key words with Pluto and Uranus. So we're tracking patterns. If you're new to astrology and you're hearing this for the first time, or seeing this chart for the first time too, it can be daunting because you just wonder, what does all that mean? But if you just use the key word of evolution, when you know that things with Pluto are happening, anticipate huge evolution with revolution with Uranus. So things will happen suddenly. There aren't accidents. It's more like when you engage with astrology, you can almost foretell when to be prepared. Like I grew up, and when I was a little Girl Scout or Boy Scouts, it's always be prepared. You don't have to go into fear, but if you can anticipate things breaking down like a financial system or earth movement, you can work with the astrology to be prepared. And so when it happens, you're like, okay, I have a little distance on that. I was expecting it. But I thank you, Sibyl, because looking at this and we see Sagittarius rising for the United States, a moon in Aquarius, and a 13-degree Cancer sun. Now, if anyone who's maybe an intermediate level astrology and they start saying, hey, like my natal Mars is conjunct that sun that's conjunct Sirius. There's ways to start reading those tea leaves, wouldn't you say, Sibyl?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, you could start saying, wow, I look at this and I compare it to my own natal chart. I might be able to understand what would Mars sitting conjunct the United States sun working with Sirius mean, Sibyl. I'm just going to lob that ball out to you.
The sun conjunct Sirius. Well, I wanted to talk about one thing before I got to the actual chart. One of the reading of the chart is the history of this chart. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is called the Sibyl chart of the USA. And when I first started doing astrology many years ago, we were using a different chart. And the chart had a Gemini ascendant with Uranus conjunct the ascendant. And then they started using the Sibyl chart, and it was later on. And I read an article by Liz Green, and she kind of gave the history of it. She said the Sibyl chart was actually a man named Sibyl who was at the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and he drew up that chart in 1787. They said the other chart with Uranus on the ascendant, she doesn't know where it came from, although it would have been very appropriate as well. But this one has been proven time and time again through different transits, like, what is it, the World Trade Towers, that whole situation, and many other things have really shown us this is the correct chart. But anyway, I just thought that was just super interesting. But she said there is verification for this chart. So anyway.
And if anyone listening says, "Oh, isn't Sibyl spelt differently, like with an E?" Unfortunately, like our wonderful astrologer Dane Rudgier accidentally misspelled it with Ley, but the correct, in case you go Google this, it is Sibly. And why this is so important, the exact time and date, it's because this is the birth moment for the United States. So I think that's what you were trying to say, or right. Sharing with us, Sibyl, that when it was a Gemini ascendant, the whole chart changes and is different. Right. It's a different personality.
Yeah. But it did add a whole new, not a whole new, just kind of a deeper Aquarian piece. And so, just my own thoughts on it are, sometimes it really depends on, when you're casting a chart, let's say you're casting a chart for the moment, sometimes it is cast for the moment something starts. And it may be that's when it actually started, the signing of the conference, the Congress, whatever it was called in that day, but they didn't actually sign it until 5:10 p.m. So anyway, those are just some thoughts of mine. All right, so now we're going to actually look at the chart itself.
Okay, so you want me to stay here?
Cursor, you can kind of...
Okay, let me get that little cursor going.
Yeah, we're just going to look at a couple of significant things in the chart, and then what's happening now.
Yeah, and let me see. I somehow lost my cursor, so let's see if I go here. Pointer options. Here we go. I'm back on. I'm back.
Oh, you're good. Okay, good. There we go. There you go. All right. So so just kind of point out this is the biwheel. We want the full wheel, just the regular. This is the transit chart. We don't want the transit chart.
Okay, let me go back then. Excuse me. This one.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
Yes, that's the chart. That's so much easier to read. The others just got way too much information on there.
Okay. Yeah. Here we are.
All right. Here we are. Okay, so we're going to first talk about the Sun, Jupiter, and Venus in Cancer. Okay. They're in the 7th house. Well, it is, like I said, Cancer is the sign of the mother. This is the sign of family. This is, it's a very sensitive kind of an energy. But what I really want to talk about, though, is to take this to the moon itself, I want to say one more thing about this. I would have to spend a whole lot of time really considering, the deeper meaning of this, but to know that it is very much about family, much about sensitivity. But, there is a shadow side to Cancer, and I think we have seen this a lot. It is called tribalism. It's people taking sides. And that wherever, because the Cancer in the moon is so much about where we feel like we belong. Okay. And so we can overlook maybe some things that people do that aren't right when they are our family, And so, anyway, I did just want to bring that up. But I think the more important piece I wanted to talk about, since we're really talking about Aquarius today, is the Aquarian moon, which is down there in the third house, because it is the ruler of all of that Cancer. And, Cancer has a tendency to be very clannish. These are my people. This is my tribe. And whereas Aquarius broadens it. I mean, this is a country of immigrants. This is a country of diversity. This is people coming from of outsiders, of exiles. All kinds of people have come here and who make up this country, and that is kind of like our family. Okay. Now, I want to also point out, Aquarius is no, I wanted to talk about was the moon. Okay, so the moon is one of the symbols for women. Okay, and I know what I wanted to say. Yeah, it's about power of the people. Aquarius is about the people, and the moon in the more mundane charts represent the people. So it's saying, this is how we were able to. Even though the Constitution and the Bill of Rights didn't cover every single one of the people that live here when it was written, but with time it did, started covering everyone. And that's pretty much what the moon in Aquarius is, one of the meanings of that. Another meaning of the moon is women. And it's also conjunct the asteroid Athena is right next to it at 26 degrees of Aquarius, if you can see that there. Okay. And I feel like, and Athena, like I said, she sits on top of our, she was known, the city of Athens is named after her, where they say democracy started. Okay. And they have a statue of her. They call her the goddess of democracy, but she is sitting right on top of our Capitol building. It is Athena. We are under the auspices of Mother Isis, the great goddess, and Athena, who was a goddess of women. And,
that's
it was
interesting.
here. Isn't that interesting?
That's interesting because it's such on the top that a lot of times you're so focused on what's on the ground or the reflection pool or the obelisk, but you forget what's on top. And if I could just add a quick note about the feminine, back up here, the 13 degrees of Cancer with the sun, you can't help but notice in numerology the 13. It's the feminine, the divine feminine number, and then the 5 calling in like the 5-pointed star of Venus, right? And then we have Venus right here with the 3, so like the divine Trinity. So it's bringing back, some people call the Holy Spirit, but it's really this feminine energy. So when you say that in Cancer, and who rules Cancer is the moon, and then you're here at the moon with Aquarius, which is the future, right? Bringing back the feminine, sitting between Pallas Athena and then Ceres. So
the liberation, right, in between Ceres, the liberation of women, and amazing. That is ultimately what happened here in the United States. We were the first ones to give women the vote. Now, we haven't had a woman president yet, but we have women in lots of positions of power. Yeah, we have vice president, right. But I mean, I feel like this was kind of written into the energetic pattern of Aquarius. I mean, not of Aquarius, but of the chart of the United States. They were astrologers. This day was chosen.
Wow. That's, when you think historically about going back into the ancients of Babylonia and Sumer and Mesopotamia, and even before then, this idea of the goddess as ruler, before the patriarchy. So we see it not as anti, but this time of the feminine ruler to then the masculine ruler to now this pivot point, like as you mentioned before, who are we as a nation that's engaged globally? So if this Pluto returns, like, who are we? Do we want to embrace that mother, the good side of the mother? I know Patricia is like, sometimes we don't want the helicopter mom telling us what to do, but the best side of Cancer, the best side of the moon, of the mother.
Right. And there's a myth that associated with Athena. And she this is her story is that when what's her name, Metis, she was the goddess that Zeus impregnated, and Zeus had this prophecy that the child that Metis was carrying would overthrow the system, would overthrow him. And he was very much, it was about the patriarchal rulership. And so basically when Athena was born, she burst out of his forehead, and he didn't kill her because she was a girl. And as they say, it will be the daughters of the patriarchy that overthrow it. The myth has not yet been fulfilled, but it is in the process.
That's very interesting, because I'm just going to digress for a moment. Wouldn't it be fascinating if our former president's daughter was actually to his demise? So I don't think
Oh,
that's too
absolutely.
far from, it's how the story reasserts itself time again, during
Right.
these pivotal times of changes. Not to
Right.
say that that's going to happen again, but it's looking like it could. So
Well,
fascinating.
absolutely. I think, I think the women will be the ones who absolutely change the one other quote I wanted to say would change the world. And it says, if you're familiar with Swami Vivekananda, says it will be the women, and I'm paraphrasing, it will be the women of the West who save the world through their memory and embrace of the divine feminine.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
That
Yeah.
Aquarian moon, though, that tells me something, that we
Yeah.
were at our birth, coming in with this emotional intelligence or awareness
Mm-hmm,
of the
mm-hmm,
future, and Aquarius being the most galactically connected. So it's
mm-hmm.
our star mothers in
Our
a
star.
certain way. It's this
Yeah.
re-embracing of our,
Mm-hmm.
the birth mothers that
Yeah.
stayed behind, the Palladian star mothers, working so that our DNA could be enhanced or improved. These are
Yeah.
stories, right, of
Right.
creation. But when I
Right.
see that Aquarian moon right now with you, Sibyl, talking about the galactic, maybe it will be the America with this Atlantis returning, which Edgar Casey would talk about. Many of you are who are incarnating now, especially in North America, have had lifetimes in Atlantis. But will we choose to go down with the flooding or not? Will we have the technology implode us again? So it's almost like we have another chance to transform or transcend and find a new way, because the last time it didn't work, but here we are back again with the same quandary.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and I did want to talk to, and I also just wanted to say, the moon in the chart often represents the soul,
Mm.
whereas, the sun represents our life force, our spirit, and the moon is, they say in the moon itself is contained all of the memories of the soul encapsulated in emotional form. So it says to me it has a piece of soul. And I just wanted to look at the draconic chart because Patrizia says the draconic chart shows the soul, is my understanding.
Let me get to that. Let's see. Here's the draconic chart using
There
astro.com.
we go. There's the draconic chart.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you can see, you can see there are what a lot of see it shifts a lot of our energy to Aquarius. Can you want to say what the draconic chart is, Ursula?
Let me start by saying a draconic chart. Think of the word dragon in its highest level, as far as the head of the dragon and the tail. This is the axial point. We often call it the north and south node. And so, with the draconic chart, what you're trying to look at is a soul, a deeper soul wisdom to add to your natal chart. But here we have the true north node at 0 degrees Aries. And that's what makes it draconic. It's, see how the true node 0 degrees Aries right here. And what it does is it oftentimes shifts your ascendant. So whereas before we saw Sagittarius rising in the United States natal chart, looking from the lens of the dragon or the deeper creator essence, soul essence, now we see the United States has a Leo rising.
Yeah. And so many planets move to Aquarius. And so I'm thinking what she said, my memory of what she said was that the draconic chart shows deeper levels of soul. Is that correct? I know she said it was the soul, but I don't remember what she what she compared it to.
She was looking at us. Hi, Patrizia, if you're listening. She was looking over here, I think, as the energy signature. So when you
Okay.
looked at the fire, earth, air, water, and then cardinal, fixed, and mutable, you can even look at your own personal natal chart and find out what's your overall energetic signature. So when we look at the draconic chart for the United States in particular, you can see where here's air, fixed air. We've got Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, and
Right.
Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius.
So basically, my understanding, it shifts everything by moving everything back so that your north node is at 0 Aries. But it is my understanding of what she said was that it represents deeper levels of soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so what this does is it moves, let's see what planets it moves, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter into Aquarius, where they were, well, two of them were in Cancer and one was in Gemini. And so it shifts a lot of energy into Aquarius, which, and like I said, the original chart that I saw for the chart of the United States had Uranus on the ascendant, which is another a Uranian Aquarian piece. So I'm just kind of trying to pull all these different, the underlying energy of the chart of the United States is Aquarian.
And look where Sirius went into the 11th house of Aquarius.
Oh, there you go. And
There you
Sirius
go.
went into the 11th house of Aquarius as well. So, yeah. So anyway, so let's go back to the just to the regular chart. And I'm going to just talk about a couple of other pieces and then we'll move to the transit. So some
Okay.
other pieces that I thought were really significant is we also have an Aquarian south node. Okay. It's right over
Here's
there
the
in the
North
second
Node. Here
house.
we go.
Yeah, there's the north node, right, and there's the south node. And so it's in a trine to Uranus. And Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. So there's just lots of Aquarian pieces. This gives um, I feel like it's with the south node trine Uranus that it has an Aquarian past, but it is propelling us forward. Okay. And yeah, there you go. And it's I'm okay, this is what's coming in. There are many beings here in the United States right now who have lived in Atlantis before. Because this is, like you said, the new Atlantis is what is showing up. And we are remembering how to work with energy, how to work with free energy. That there is a tremendous amount of knowledge from the past that I feel like when Pluto activates that is going to come through. Okay.
Yep.
Now the North Node is in Leo, and it's up there in the 8th house, and it's ruled by the Cancer Sun. Leo is ruled by the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is what is telling us to not lose our connection to our heart. Aquarius can be very technical, really energetic, but sometimes, with a deep connection to technology, that is so important to stay connected to our hearts and to each other, that we can't let our technology get ahead of our humanity.
That's big. That does go back to this galactic heritage that Lisa Royal Holt talks about, that the
Mm-hmm.
technology advances to such a level that it basically implodes and it demolishes a civilization that has to then rebuild and enters this point of high tech. And so here
Mm-hmm.
we are embracing like the AI. And what
Right.
does that mean? But will we choose to go with our hearts and our souls? And I think this
Mm-hmm.
is maybe why that draconic chart is vital for the
Mm-hmm.
United States to really understand
Mm-hmm.
at a core essence, why are we here at this choice point again? Like we
Mm-hmm.
understand evolution and okay, it's like the karmic wheel. We've come back, a Pluto return. What are you going to do this time? And it's a
Mm-hmm.
choice. And we could choose
Mm-hmm.
to implode and come back and do it all again. Or
Mm-hmm.
we can embrace, I think, the galactic family and the support that's around us, invite them in to help guide us to make
Right.
positive steps for the renewal of and the rebirthing of the United States of America.
Right, right. And before, I'm going to talk about just one more thing before we
Okay.
get to Pluto,
Okay.
and because Pluto is the big show now.
Yep.
So we also have a Mars Neptune square. Okay, Mars is there at 21 degrees of Gemini, and it's conjunct several stars in Orion. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in a square to Neptune up there in the ninth house. And this has actually been activated over the last several years by Neptune, and then just recently by Mars retrograde. Mars went retrograde really, so this has really been strong. And, squares are challenges. So this is one of the major challenges that we have in our chart, or in the energetic imprint of this country. And Mars, Neptune together, the shadow side can bring what I would say deceptive actions. Mars is the god of war. And in Gemini, we've been seeing a really huge information war with a lot of what we would call misinformation and disinformation, and a lot of things that are true that are called misinformation and disinformation. There's been a lot of manipulation of information coming in. And Neptune is so much about illusion and delusion. Okay. Now, the primary goal of these planets coming together, it is about aligning our will with divine will. But it also squares shows us all the obstacles that can get in the way. Okay. And being conjunct Bellatrix in Orion, Bellatrix, according to Bernadette Brady, brings success, but with a price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think this has really been in the field. And so we were also in the midst of our Neptune opposition. So Neptune was opposing Neptune. So it was really a really strong energy over the last 3 years.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Now,
let's get back to what Pluto, is that where you want to go
yep.
next?
Yeah, that's what I have the left. Yeah,
Okay.
Pluto. Pluto is
Oh,
the big gun because
okay.
Pluto is the one that we're in the midst of our Pluto return.
So
Yeah,
here it
right there.
is. You can
Yeah.
see in the inner wheel is um this is the transit on the outside
With
and
the
the
transit on the
natal.
outside.
The
Yeah.
natal in
Yeah.
the inside.
Natal
Okay,
on
so
the
if you're
inside.
new to reading charts, this is the natal inside. This is the natal chart for the United States, the Sibley chart. And then what Sibyl did is do a bi-wheel, and on the outside is here's the current time. Let's see, when did
Yeah.
you do this? You did this March
Yeah,
24th.
just for today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Okay.
today. Yeah, but when I read the energy, let's go back just to the regular chart. I think that might be too much information for people who
Okay.
aren't used to it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see if I can get back to.
Let's see if we can get back to that.
There we
No,
go.
that's not it. That's still the bi-wheel. On the next one, the one that I read. This
Okay.
one.
So
Perfect.
this,
There we go. Okay. So we are in the midst of our Pluto return. And you can show them Pluto there so Pluto is has returned to its natal placement of 27 degrees, 32 minutes of Capricorn. But by precession, how we do this, it's about where we measure places in the sky. And so through the precession of the equinoxes, this has been, what is it? I think 224 years, something like that, since this Declaration of Independence was written. And so that place in the sky has actually moved just a bit, and it is now at 1 degree Aquarius. And so the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I feel like this is a process, not just an event. And that as Pluto moves over the 27 degrees, it'll still be in process for the next several years until it actually leaves 1 degree Aquarius. Okay. So it's kind of like I said, it's a process, not just an event. So anyway, so what does all of this mean? Well, first of all, Pluto is like talked about, he's like the god Shiva. He is the great destroyer. He destroys what has no more life, has no more life force for us. And Pluto has been transiting, in these late degrees of Capricorn, and before it moved into Aquarius. And this is so much about a time of really looking, being honest, really looking at what is working, what is not working. Okay. And being really honest about that. And it's in the second house, and the second house has to do with our economy and, with finances. But on a deeper level, it's about self-worth. It's how do we love ourselves and what do we value? Those are the deeper levels. And so who are we? And because, what we valued, 224 years ago is just not the same as what it is now. Who have we become and what is important to us now? We are at a different level of evolution, I do believe. And like I said, when Pluto comes in, it's about evolve or die, because Pluto is the god of death and rebirth. And when Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, it came with a financial crisis.
Yeah.
And here we are again, we're seeing what was not fixed. Okay. And it is also, Pluto return really is a time of reckoning, especially in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. It is the Lord of karma. It's like, how do we, some of the choices we have made, we just have to face and deal with. That's it. It's not like we're going to be punished, but it's like having the ability to let the veil, the illusion fall so that we can really look at where we are and what do we need to do. Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Mm-hmm. I think we just gave everybody a fire hose.
Yeah.
You got a fire hose and you can take the pieces that feel right. I mean, Sibyl, what's coming up for me as you're speaking about Pluto and the return, it was always to be expected. It's part of the life cycle, right? And so if things are born and they get to childhood, young adulthood, and then they mature, and then there's a time to transform. And I think for me, this Pluto return is saying, what are we dreaming about for our next evolution? We hear the terms new earth. We hear this word ascension, and working with dimensions and all this, but it really comes down to tuning in, I think, to each of our individual hearts. What do you dream about, and are you dreaming? And I know it's hard to dream when all you're doing is reacting. I mean, we have so much flooding and we have so much hot and cold and devastation just here in California. And that's not to say what's happening around the world. My God. So, but it's again, can you dream in spite of what's happening and you're noticing around you? And this is why I think working with this Aries new moon, it's like, God, do you really take the time to dream? Because what we focus on will manifest. And I do think this engagement now with our multidimensional sensory organs is happening. We're seeing things we hadn't seen before. We're hearing things. We're knowing things. We don't need to go 20 years of training. We can sometimes, rise up quickly in a way that it's like you don't even understand. You just got this download. So I want to leave on a positive note that it was always designed by design to have a Pluto, transformative. Yes, through the death, it's a window opening, a door opening to the next world. But are you dreaming again of what it is you want? And then collectively, who do we say we are as a United States?
Right. Well, I just think it's important for people to be aware that the next couple of years may be a little rough going, but absolutely, there is great beauty on the other side. And the thing is, we're getting so much guidance from the stars of how to navigate this territory, how we are moving into uncharted territory. It is, I feel like so much of the guidance that I'm getting, it is to stay grounded and centered within our own consciousness, to stay calm and non-reactive, to not participate in a lot of the drama that is going on in the outer world, to know that, the external world is a reflection of our inner world. And Pluto is about transformation. And when we can look at that and own that, then we can make different choices, of how we meet the energy. We don't have to engage with the energy in a negative way. We can make a choice of, it's about, okay, there's a lot of darkness coming up, but we are transmuting that into light. That's because this is like the foundations of what everything was built on, is crumbling. Or let's put it this way. The ones that are not secure, the ones that are not healthy, they have parts of our foundation that are not healthy, because that's what Pluto roots out. It's like, I'm a nurse, I've been a nurse a long time. And, it's like when you have an infection and how it has to drain, but then you're healed. Okay. So I feel like that's what we're going through. But the key is to really stay in the present moment and to ask yourself, how is my world in the present moment? Because that's really all we have.
Yeah.
To have a lot of anxiety. We don't know what's coming in lots of ways. We can't control it. We're in a place of change that we cannot control. So we follow the flow of our own energy. But, like you said, this is part of our natural process. It is written into the stars that we would have this Pluto return at this moment. And we know we are shifting into higher frequency dimensions, and we have to leave behind the lower vibrational frequency emotions is what it is. It's what it's about.
I agree with you 100%. And it feels like the words that are coming up for me is power shift.
Mm-hmm.
They call it a shift of ages, but instead of giving our power and saying, okay, government, solve all my problems, I'll pay my taxes and you do the rest. Or, okay, media, tell me all the news and I won't have to think of anything. You
Mm-hmm.
think for me. So it's this reclaiming of our own personal power and saying, you know what? It all ends up squarely here. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am the beginning, the alpha and the omega. I am
Mm-hmm.
creating what's showing up as the mirror from what I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about. So if we're thinking about all the junk, more junk will come. And I think when you look at, again, Lisa Royal Holt and her galactic heritage, it's this choice point to, you can't get to the next level until you clear and go through this death process of letting go and surrendering. Like, it is about me stepping into my sovereignty and saying, I can't expect the king or queen or the president or vice president, mayor, governor to solve it. It's an interior resolution.
Absolutely. And one more interesting thing before we close is that, Pluto is moving over stars of Lyra and Aquila of Altair, and we, the eagle, and I feel like the piece about Lyra is remembering our galactic history,
We go back to the beginning of our creation before we recreate ourselves into this new being. It's you can't make this up. You really can't. And it's being double Virgo, I always like to look at the proof, like show me. And what you did today, you showed us so much. And I hope you'll come back again, Sibyl, as time allows. Just you've inspired me to start looking a little bit more deeply. But all roads lead here into the heart.
All roads lead.
All
That's exactly
roads
right.
lead back here. It's not outside. In fact, one image I just wanted to share, like I could never understand how Henri Matisse could keep painting, or some of the expressionist artists would keep painting. There was bombs and war and death and disease, and yet here they are painting. And so it's those choice points of, are you going to create the world that you want instead of always responding to the world that other people are creating on that, screen, whether it's, looking at your phone or the TV. Like, stop for a moment, reconnect with Mother Earth, the mother. And I love that you're saying we're moving back in with Lyra, the ancient origins. It all began.
It all began. And Aquila, the eagle, the United States, our symbol is the eagle. And I don't know if you know this, but NASA says they've been picking up transmissions from Altair.
Oh, I love it.
They're trying to communicate with us. I haven't, and, what is the eagle? Is in symbolic, it's, in Native American, or excuse me, First Nations people, the eagle is the messenger of spirit. There's a divine messages coming through. He's a divine messenger. And he also has the eagle eye view. He can see the whole picture. And Aquarius is actually asking us to see the whole picture. Not just we have these pieces.
Yep. Get off the ground to get a higher view.
A vision.
And then you have the vision and the leadership to follow. And let's just put in a plug now for anyone interested in learning about your own galactic heritage. Do go check out that free natal calculator that Julia Balaz has at galacticastrochart.com. Because who knows, you might have Altair, you might have, Lyra, family that you can call in at your time of unease, because this is not meant to be just a smooth ride for anybody. We're all going through the birth pangs of moving into this newer earth.
Exactly.
Thank you, Sibyl.
You are so welcome, Ursula. Thank you for having me.
Come play again. Okay, we'll get more galactic. I think I'd like to have you come back next, and we'll talk about Bernadette Brady and her visual astrology, looking at the United States. Let's see what she has to say from a Puran perspective.
Great. All right.
Bye, Sibyl. See you soon.
All right. Thanks, Ursula.